Well, hello everybody. Let me tell you something. This is going to be my second attempt at sharing this with you, okay? One of these YouTube video creator things happened to me that's happened to just about anyone that attempts to create videos, edit videos, do things for whatever platform that they use. Happened to me. And that was, I had this great episode, 35 minutes of awesomeness, all edited, all put together. And I made a mistake. I erased some footage, and unknowingly, by erasing certain footage, ruined my entire video. So, here I am, trying to recreate the excitement that I had in this first video that I put out, you guys. I'll get to what the video is in just a second. A couple quick reminders for you. I really appreciate the support, as always. Love you guys. Y'all are great. If you're new to the channel, we had a recent influx of subscribers based off of a couple of these NASCAR videos we put out that turned out pretty well. We focused those videos strictly on truckers. The NASCAR videos that I put out that were kind of race, had a lot of race stuff in them as well, didn't really do anything special. As soon as we focused those videos completely on the truckers and the truckers' duties and what they're doing, all of a sudden, YouTube kind of picked them up and put them out there for everybody. So if you are someone that's in here new from those NASCAR videos and you decided to follow along and you subscribed, welcome. I think you'll enjoy what we have. NASCAR is not really my gig. It's one of my many little part-time things that have kind of fallen into my life. But what I do, as some of you know, some of you don't, is that I have a trucking business. Do a lot of trucking. I love old trucks. I'm kind of a collector of old things. We ranch. We do a little farming, but mostly ranching and trucking and playing music and doing all this stuff. So anyway, you guys, really glad to have you in again. I was reminded today of the importance. I'm going to share this with you and then I'll jump in the video. The importance of making sure that your kids are working this summer, all right? Whatever it is, in whatever scenario they're in, whatever part of the world you're in, whether you're in the city, in the country, from if you're in town, having them take out the garbage, be mowing the lawn, washing the house, keeping the sidewalk cleared off. Those kind of duties are really important for kids. If you're out in the country, chances are you're probably using your kids already for work because you need them for your operation to function properly. Baling hay, running combines, driving truck, raking, doing whatever. Anyway, here's why. It's important for your kids to work because your kids working teaches your kids responsibility. It teaches them to naturally be more respectful of those around them. And it keeps them happy and they thrive on it. So anyway, that's my thought for you. Now, let's get to the business. Now to the business of the video, you guys. Here we go. So I had 4 kidney stones removed recently. About a month ago, I had to go in, have 4 of them taken out. It's the second time in my life that I've had to do this. It's not a great experience. Those of you that have had stones, you're with me. Those of you that have stones inside you that don't know yet that you have stones, kidney stones, you will be joining a club at some point that is pretty miserable. But anyway, we got them out, and while I was recovering, I was watching a couple of online internet auctions. And I purchased something. I made a purchase. Laying there all doped up on painkillers, happy as a camper, I came across something that I thought, I gotta have this. Now I'll tell you, it's something that's old. I love old trucks. It is old. I bought a truck in the state of Minnesota, up in Greenbrush, Minnesota. And I bought it sight unseen. Of course, there's pictures and whatnot on the auction site. But I purchased this rig. It seemed really cheap to me, so I bought it. It had a good history about it. And I had to have it. Sometimes you see a truck and you just have to have it. And so here we are. I had the previous video all set up. I videoed the trip out, videoed driving the truck back, all the greatness of that. Well, that's all gone. So what you're going to get now is a cool sequence of this truck, and you're going to get a good walk around, okay? And I'm going to tell you what it is, what it isn't, a little history about it, and maybe what we're going to do with it or not do with it. Anyway, without further ado, check this thing out. dark, isn't it? Working on some hand equipment here in the shop, getting this mower conditioner ready to go, and the power went out. So I thought this would be a great time to show you a new light that I got from Olight here a couple of months ago that I've been checking out and trying out. It is the Baton 3, and it is a beast. This is just the regular flow right here. It's a small little light, you see that? Fits in the palm of your hand. It's bigger than the last one, than the Arkfeld that I had last time, which I still carry on the visor of my truck that I use for hauling when I'm hauling cattle and checking things in the dark. Really enjoyed it, it's held up well. So they sent me another one. Okay, this is just the low blast. Let me show you the high blaster. Click it 3 times. Oops, 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, that's the strobe. Another feature they have. Whoa, party time. It's haying time. John Deere. Okay, sorry. Hit it twice. There. Okay, so I'll show you the difference. This is just the one-timer. This is the bright guy. And man, this is a 40 by 80 shop, and it lights. I mean, I'm probably about 60 feet from that back wall, and it lights, man. I was just getting ready to put these things up so that I had my safeties on as I begin to work on this thing and get it ready. And things went dark. This is the little light I was using in there, you guys. Little guy, you can't believe the power that it puts out. It's rechargeable. It's got a magnetic base on it, so it'll stick to all things magnetic. That's pretty cool. It's incorporated into the charger. I like that. They've sent me a couple lights now. This is the second one. This is the Baton 3 Pro Max from Olight. Their stuff is tough. I like that it's metal cased and it's rechargeable. Pretty handy. I still have the little Arkfeld. You remember that I showed you? It's been several months ago. I use it all the time. So when they wanted to send this one, I was like, yeah, I like your stuff. Let's do it. If you guys want, if you're interested in something like this one's a little bit bigger. This is probably something a mechanic would more want to keep on his toolbox. But if you're interested in this, if for no other reason than the strobe light dance party that it puts off, you can use the code JAX10. Click the link in my description and you can get hooked up with the deal there from these guys. All right, y'all. There you have it. You fallen in as much love with this truck as I have? This here is a 1991 Kenworth T600. You can see why I was drawn to this truck now a little bit. How clean and nice everything is. This truck, a T600, was Kenworth's first foray into the world of aerodynamics. Believe these came out kind of in the mid. What they did was they got a slope nose. A lot of people call these an anteater, okay? Because they got this slope nose that comes down and then those long fenders used. But they brought and created a plastic fairing that they incorporated into the steps of the semi, and that allowed for some great aerodynamic advantages. Prior to this, you would maybe just find a fuel tank or an aluminum step that catches a lot of wind coming off the side of the hood. So they created this, has a little more flow, kicks the wind out and around. Hidden underneath here is the fuel tank. That's where you'd fill up. Keeps that tank hidden, helps the air flow around, as I mentioned, comes off. And then another cool thing is that the fairing kind of kicks out and pushes that wind a little bit away from the truck. And here's why they did that. I'd say one of the most common questions that I've already been asked about this truck, just people seeing a picture of it or seeing it on the road, is, man, it looks like it has a really big bunk. Now, if you look from here, it does, doesn't it? It looks like, man, that's like a queen size bunk, isn't it? Not too bad. It'd be all right to live in that thing. Well, let me show you a little something here. This portion of it, this back portion here, is a fairing. Here's a view from the backside. You can see they just put this fairing here, and the fairing creates the optical illusion of a longer bunk, of a nice big old long sleeper, when in reality the sleeper goes from here to right there. So adding these fairing extensions, what that does, when you hook a trailer on, a trailer will hook up, and typically, depending on the style of trailer, that trailer is going to go anywhere from right here. The front of the trailer would be here, like in a van trailer setting, maybe a grain trailer or a cow trailer. The trailer is probably going to come about to here. Either way, the distance is not that great from here to here. Maybe 24 inches, just enough room for you to squeeze through and climb up the steps to get in between to hook up. And what that does, having the trailer so tight, is it keeps the air from getting inside there and swirling around. Right. Now, long stretched out trucks are cool, but here's the problem. If this thing was stretched way back, when that air comes around the cab, it'll swirl right inside here, swirl, bam, hits the front of that trailer, and that creates an incredible amount of drag. Drag creates an incredible decrease in your fuel mileage. Here's another great example of that from this blue truck. Look where the fifth wheel plate is. Means that the trailer's gonna come up here into this vicinity. Not much room to right here. These fuel tanks are also covered. Aerodynamics. Personally, I've always loved these T600s. These were the trucks right here. These were the trucks that they made all of the toy trucks after when I was young. So you'd go into a truck stop and you'd see a little die-cast toy truck, just a generic toy in the truck stop. It seemed like it was always a T600 Kenworth. And so it was the ones that I would play with. In fact, my best memory is that at a Cenex truck stop in Billings, Montana, the toy company Nylent had it was a black truck, a black trailer, T600 that took batteries, and it had like 6 different buttons that you could push: air horn, Jake brake, engine revving up, so on and so forth. And I talked my dad into getting me that. I don't know what kind of things I did to talk him into this. It was probably a $25 semi back in the early 90s, but he got that thing for me and I was over the moon. I was over the moon. And ever since then, I've always liked these. This is the first one that I've ever owned as a T600. You want to get into the specs of this truck a little bit? This is where you're going to have to stick with me and learn the story, okay? Because the tale of why I bought this truck and what really drew me to it, other than it being a childhood toy of mine, is this thing right here. This is a Big Cam 4. This is the last series of the Big Cam Cummins engine that Cummins ever made. They made a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, okay? And this was it. This was the final one. Now, Big Cam 4s, despite what everybody thinks, a Big Cam 4 could make some unbelievable power. You could get these trucks to run up in the 700-800 horsepower range if you knew what you were doing. Bruce Mallinson of Pittsburgh Power kind of made it his life's quest back in the late 80s and early 90s to figure out how to get all the power out of these engines. I don't need all that crazy power. However, this truck was uprated to 450 horsepower when it was overhauled. Let's talk about that overhaul. Now, this is where the tale gets a little bit sorted, okay? And you're gonna have to follow along here because there's a couple different people involved in this story. Involved is a mechanic shop, a cattle hauler, and a farmer. I'll refer to the three as that. Here's what happened. The cattle trucker, who did, I think, some local work there around Greenbrush area, Grand Forks, North Dakota, kind of both sides of the North Dakota-Minnesota border, had this truck, ran it, used it. It was a great old truck for him. Well, one day starts pushing antifreeze through the heads, which means that there's some parts inside the engine that are wearing out. So he takes it to the mechanic. They confirm their fears. The engine needs to be overhauled. You see, a truck like this that's a 1991 with a Cummins motor in it, someone would look at and say this phrase: the truck is not worth overhauling. The overhaul to the engine will cost more than the truck is worth. Therefore, we should throw the truck away and let it go. I used to have the same mentality. You guys, I'm here to tell you that I'm a changed man. Some things are worth fixing because they're just worth fixing. So I'm going to change my mentality and say that some things are worth overhauling. Some things are worth keeping, even though, yes, the face value of this truck is not crazy high. Still worth overhauling because of its history. So with the overhaul completed, and the overhaul was complete, they put new heads on, they put a new cam, they put new pistons and liners in, and that is when they uprated it to 450 horsepower from the typical factory 400. The cattleman receives the truck back, and this happens to a lot of truck drivers where they overhaul a truck and then they realize, I kind of would like to change up and get something different. I would like to maybe upgrade, get something that's a little more comfortable. Each one has their reasons. As a buyer, we look at overhauled engines and go, hey, this truck's freshly overhauled. That's what caught my eye. This truck was freshly overhauled, and it came with receipts from the overhaul. Come springtime, they had taken their truck that had blown up, took it to the same mechanic, ironically, that had overhauled this engine. He overhauls their farm truck, which was much newer than this one, and they get their farm truck back. Now, farmer is faced with, I have 2 trucks. I don't need 2 trucks, but I have 2 trucks. What shall I do? Well, they weighed their options out, and of course this truck, being new to the fleet, being older, and being a little more cramped, and I'll show you about that when we get inside of it, but they decided this is the truck that they want to let go. So they put it up for sale, they put it up for auction, and it sold really poorly. The money that I paid for it, I felt like was much, much less than this truck deserved to receive what I thought would have been full market value. So as I met with the farmer, I kind of gave him my condolences, and I said, man, I hate to see that happen to anybody, that, you know, you lose money on a rig like this, but he said, it's all right, it's how it goes. But you guys, I'm not quite sure what I want to do with this truck. I originally kind of bought it thinking, well, that's a bargain deal. I have a lot of trucks. As you know, I have a bit of a truck issue where I purchase these things and I feel like I'm going to just drive them all myself. Like every truck's going to be mine. It's going to be my main hauler and I'm going to use it. Well, as the further that I drove this thing home towards Montana, the more I started to fall in love with it. I'm really considering keeping this truck and using it to make a YouTube series on, and tell me what you think about this, a YouTube series on how to make a living with an extremely cheap truck. I would love to illustrate this to people. I always give my advice on the podcast all the time, saying if you want to make it in trucking, do this, this, and this. I kind of want to put my money where my mouth is again for the second time. First time being when I started trucking and made a great success of it. I kind of want to take this truck out on the road and film it and be really transparent with you guys. Put my advice that I give on the podcast, Steady at the Wheel, into action and see how it works the second time around. Let me show you one of the things that concerned me when I first when I first looked at the pictures of the truck. Look at this oily mess. Look at this. That is cause for concern. So when we got here, I asked the farmer, I said, man, what is this? And he goes, oh, we were driving along and the oil fill cap came off. And when that happens, there's so much violent oil spraying around inside of the engine block and in the oil pan that it throws oil out of here. So that oil got thrown out, leaked down, and is on the axle and the spring. Nothing to worry about. They put a new cap on, and away we go. Other little thing I noticed, there was a little antifreeze leak. I don't even know if you're going to be able to see it up in there. Oh yeah, maybe so. Little antifreeze leak. I know they did put a new water pump on this engine when they did the overhaul. It was on the parts list. Sometimes when you put new parts on, they do weep or seep a little bit until the seals kind of get settled in and going. So we'll keep an eye on that and make sure that the water pump is all hunky-dory. We're going to keep an eye on that water pump seep. Looks like here, maybe as you see, there's just a little, whoa, what in the, hey, bud. So this bird is tame, as you can see. This is a wild pigeon. He doesn't look so wild, does he? This bird came from town. It was around the cemetery, I believe, in town, and somebody was feeding it. And they were worried that it was going to be too tame and die, or some such thing in town. So they asked our carpenter, who's been working out here, if he could take it out into the country and let it be free. So the carpenter put it in the back of his pickup, thinking that as he drove out to our place, which is way out in the country, that the bird would fly away. Well, the bird never flew away. It stayed in his pickup all the way here. And now he lives at the ranch. He's really tame, and out of nowhere he likes to come, and maybe he'll look at the camera. Out of nowhere he likes to fly in and land upon your shoulder or your head. He's been here for about 2 weeks. A little worried that he's going to get eaten by a cat, but he's learning the ropes. I guess he's going to be with us for the rest of the video. Anyway, okay, so we got a little seep right here. It's just a tiny little antifreeze seep, you guys. It's barely anything. We want to probably tighten that back down, make sure that's good to go. One last thing that I did see as well, they've got some oil here. This is the compressor wheel. So this is what would shoot air into the engine, into the intake, to help this thing burn nice and clean. Your turbo powers that wheel, and that's what gives you forced air into your engine. I see down here we got some oil. Concerning for sure. Maybe it came from that spraying up here, but I don't know. What we're gonna have to do is take this apart, take this boot off, and we'll look inside there. There's a chance that there's a seal inside the turbo that's gone bad, that's allowing oil from, you know, this is the supply line. It would allow, because there's a bearing in here that needs oil, and if the seal for that bearing is bad, it's seeping oil down into here. The oil would go from here, forced into your engine, and could actually cause, I believe, a situation called a runaway, where the engine could just take off because it's running off of its own oil. See what I mean? The oil would shoot in through the air tube, the engine would combust oil, and it'll run. You could shut off the key and shut off the fuel, but it won't stop because it keeps sucking oil through here. So we definitely want to look into this ASAP. I know. So let's see. Over here, I noticed the whole way home this truck ran super clean. There was, you know, I'd park it on the cement when we were fueling up. No drips, no drops. However, when I did get home, left it on the pad for a bit, it did have some drips. Hey, little kitty, your job is to keep the mice away. Okay? We got 3 cats because mice have been getting into everything this last winter. And you 3 are the saviors. Check this out. Nothing major. I noticed there was a seep. See that right there? Looking dirty. It's actually just that fuel line is seeping. And it's leaking enough oil or enough diesel fuel down that it's sitting on the edge and dripping onto the ground, making it appear like an oil leak, but it's just a fuel line. I see a few other fuel lines that are a little weepy. Pretty common. I've gone through a lot of fuel lines this year. Just whatever reason, all these old trucks of mine are got weeping fuel lines. So we'll put some new fuel lines on there. We'll check out that turbo, and we'll keep an eye on those antifreeze deals. But it ran really strong on the way home, you guys. It just purred. It was smooth. Everything was great. It was really responsive. Let me tell you about the last thing of these big cam 4s. Big cam 4s, if you know or don't know, if you're someone looking to get into a big cam 4, it's something you're going to want to know about. If you're someone that's been around these, you already know this. Here's the thing. Big cam 4 created a cooling system called a low flow cooling system. And it was just that. They and I can't remember why, but they made it so that it flowed coolant slower, basically. And in doing so, these engines were notorious for overheating. In fact, Dad's truck that's up on the hill, the one that we got running last year, that truck, when he put it together in 2000, almost was ruined because it kept overheating. Turns out a bunch of mechanics, not Cummins, but a bunch of just mechanics, figured out a way to convert this from low flow to high flow. See, the big cam 1, 2, and 3 all had high flow cooling systems that you could turn the horsepower to the moon, and they never had heating problems. The 4 almost put Cummins under when they came out with it. They had engines overheating left and right. People were very, very unhappy. So anyway, there's some different ways to convert these. If you look online, you'll see some people, they remove this big old, this is an air and water manifold. They remove this and they put on a manifold from a big cam 3. The way you can tell if it's from a big cam 3 or 4, a big cam 3 manifold would have the coolant lines coming out the top of it right here in the middle. Big cam 4, they come out the front here. Does that mean this is not converted? No. I went up and I looked at Dad's truck, and his has all these parts. He still has the big cam 4 manifold. This truck has been around long enough that if it was having heating issues many, many, many years ago, it would have been converted. Another clue that it was running properly to me was when I drove home bobtail, it ran at about 170 degrees. That's a little cooler than you want. You actually want them to run about 180 so that they'll burn nice and clean. Dad's truck, when it was converted from a low to a high flow, you have trouble keeping it warm when you're empty or in the wintertime. You like 150, 60 degrees, you just fight it all the time to keep it warm enough. We'll find out when we put a load on it. Getting tired of the bird yet? Bird, what do you have to say? These older trucks are in two pieces. This is the sleeper. There's a crack here, and then there's the cab. They're two separate things. Now, if you look in here, you'll see all of a sudden, okay, that's the boot I was talking about up in here, which is intact, by the way. It's not leaking. Two different pieces. So what that creates for the operator is a back wall. See that back wall? The seat can only go back so far till it hits the back wall. And then what that does for you here, you sit under here and your feet come down here, and your feet come down, and then your foot has to jack back up at a really sharp angle to get onto the fuel pedal. And after 3 or 4 hours of driving like that, it gets a little old, it gets a little hanky. In fact, by the end of my trip, I was reaching my left foot over and pushing on the gas with my left foot because my right foot was at such an extreme angle, I was starting to get sore. One fix is that you remove the sleeper and you cut out a big hole. Basically, you cut out and get rid of this entire back wall on the cab, and you can get rid of the back wall on the sleeper, and then you can mash them back together, and you have what they call a unibuilt or an ultra cab rig, and there's no wall there. That is a lot of work. Let me tell you what I'm gonna do first. I'm not against doing that. It's just a big job. But I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna try and tell me what you think if this might work. See, in here, the seat is back as far as it'll go. It will not go back any further. However, when I reach in here, look how much space is here still. Here's my fingers. There's still this much space, you guys. That's like 4 inches. I mean, it's not even, well, you can see here, look, it's not even close to the back wall. It can go way back further. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unbolt this seat. I'm gonna drill 2 new holes in this mounting plate, and we're gonna slide the seat back against the wall so that when it's all the way back on the adjustment, it's all the way back against the wall. The second thing I'm gonna do is likely replace this seat with a low back seat. And the reason why is the longer the seat is, when you recline your seat back, the sooner the top of your seat hits the wall. So we're gonna do a combination of things there and see if that will give me enough space to where I can comfortably run this truck down the road. Another extreme thing you could do is you could actually unbolt all of this, cut another hole here in the floor, push the fuel pedal up. See, if you look here too, look how much room is here. There's that much room from the fuel pedal to the wall. So I don't understand why the engineers of these trucks did not just push the pedal up further to get it more away from the seat. It doesn't make sense, but that can be truck engineers for you sometimes. I'm gonna do that. That's a little more involved again because I gotta cut linkage and have to re-weld linkage, and that would be fairly involved. But if the seat doesn't work, if it's really close, if it's like, man, it's so close to being comfortable, I might consider moving the fuel pedal forward. One of the last things that you're gonna see here is pretty common of a lot of old pickups and a lot of old semis. The wild and wonderful wiring hooplas that, of course, the original wire man would know what all this was, but I do not. I've got 2 switches here. I can't figure out what they do. This one's like returns to its position. It's like a center switch, and if you pull it up and let go, it comes almost like a mirror adjustment, but it's not. I don't know. I know that this one turns on some cool red lights underneath there, right? A couple other little things. Looks like missing a couple switches here. See that? Here and here. Engine fan switch, which I definitely want. And the dome light, which would be nice because it works, but need a switch for that. Okay, y'all, we're coming down the home stretch. Last couple things to show you. I'll be quick. I promise. 8-bag air suspension on this truck. Okay, it's called an AG100. There's 2 bags per axle per side, making a total of 4 bags on each side. These air ride systems, the 8 bags, they have their pros and cons. The pro is that they kind of can walk over humps in the road. They're more of an off-road suspension, I guess, than an on-road suspension. But the biggest, bird really, go on. The biggest surprise of this truck is how smooth it rode. And I'm not exaggerating. It bobtails smoother than this truck. Get up there. It bobtails smoother than my Kenworth T600. It was the biggest surprise of the trip. I kind of knew how the engine was going to feel. I knew what it's like. I grew up in a big Cam 4. It's a truck I really learned to drive in. The biggest surprise of this thing was how smooth it rode. It just really boggled my mind. As you can see here, these shocks, I mean, they're wore out. I mean, look at that. They haven't been changed. The rubber's all cracked out. They haven't been changed in a minute now. All in all, it's a truck I'm excited about, you guys. Are you excited about it? Is it a truck you think I should run? Should I get it rolling, get it all ship shape, and put it on the road and do a thing like that where you just follow along and I'm open about, hey, this is kind of what this truck costs. This is what I got into it. This is what the load pays. This is what the repair costs. I've always thought it'd be fun to do something like that with an old truck. I mean, with the new trucks, you're like, yeah, I got the warranty. We're going to swing into the shop and have them replace a sensor and I'll be back on the road. Yeah. It's not really. That's why a lot of folks get brand new stuff, because then they don't have to deal with like the business of truck repairs. It's just like, take it in, it's warranted. When the warranty's over, you buy a new truck. I've never been a part of that system. I've always been in these old rickety bobs, but but I've learned a lot from them over the years. So let me know what you think, you guys. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm so sorry about the deletage of this last episode. I had all kinds of travel videos and going down the road and Jake brakes shots and gear shifting shots and just some stuff that was really, I thought was really cool and fun to see traveling across the country. But my mistake, I learned from it, and hopefully not have that happen again. So this is the video you get now instead. Next video coming out, probably, I'm going to say it's going to be a NASCAR Sonoma video. Kind of went along and showed some more trucker duties. We actually have some pretty serious race day, race time duties that we do, that Chris and I do. So I'm going to show you some of that. Anyway, that's about all I got, you guys. Till the next time we see you, y'all be good. Subscribe, like, share. Actually, let me tell you a funny story real quick. I was picking up another piece of equipment that I bought. In fact, I'll walk you through that one next. That'll be the next short Sight Unseen video. Been doing a lot of Sight Unseen stuff lately. Anyway, I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and a FedEx guy pulls up, driving a FedEx semi. He's like, hey, I know you. I said, you do? Well, you have the advantage over me, sir, because I do not know you. Anyway, he watches the YouTube, and it's pretty cool. I love when you guys say hi. It's fun to see you out and about as we're on the road. If you haven't had the chance, you guys, go check out our podcast, Steady at the Wheel. You don't have to do it on YouTube. You can check it's on every major podcast platform and most of the minor ones as well out there. Getting some good traction. Been doing that for a year now, almost every week. So it's great. It's good. See you next time.